Good evening and Happy New Year. Today is Monday, January 13th, 2025, and the time now is 6 p.m. and I will call to order this regular meeting of the Town of Mead Board of Trustees. In accordance with the town's remote participation and remote meeting policy adopted by the Board of Trustees on March 13th, 2023, by resolution number 21-R-2023, remote participation will be allowed. The meeting link has been provided on the town's website and designated posting place 24 hours prior to this meeting. I'd like to remind everyone present, both in person and virtually, of the town's general guidelines for public comment at open meetings and public hearings. The guidelines are available online and on our entry table. There are 2 public comment opportunities on the agenda for persons in attendance at Town Hall to address the board. The first is limited to items on the agenda, and the second public comment opportunity allows any subject, whether it is on the agenda or not, to be addressed. Mary, roll call, please.
Mayor Whitlow.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris.
Here.
Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Babcock. Trustee Crane.
Here.
Trustee Hagan.
Here.
Trustee Schranz.
Here.
Mayor Whitlow, today is Monday, January 13th, 2025, and you do have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Mary. Please join me in a moment of silence for all the people impacted by the fires in California. Excuse me. Thank you very much for your time. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next is review and approve agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening? Okay, hearing none. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
I move to approve the agenda as is.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Harris.
Yes.
Trustee Adams.
Yes.
Trustee Crane.
Yes.
Trustee Hagan.
Yes.
Trustee Schranz.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. Motion carries. We have an agenda for this evening. Next is our staff report by our town manager. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. You have my report. I would like to just have 2 things I'd like to add to the report. Our staff has been working diligently to try to put together the picture of these various construction impacts, and it's been rather challenging. I know Lorelei and Erica reached out and met with CDOT last week. We seem to get information from all different methods, smoke signals, meetings that, for example, the I-25 Coalition. I'm meeting with all the various town managers that are contiguous to the town of Mead over the next couple weeks. But it's like we're pulling information in and trying to put together a picture of what's happening. And I think we're going to do our level best on our communications to the citizens. But it is challenging because the information is coming that we weren't even aware of. Very immediate. And then some things we think they're going to happen next week, and then they get put off either because of weather or something else. So we're going to do our best. I think the important thing is that we really try to get our PIOs together in our various towns, because like we learned that closure in Berthoud is going to have a big impact on County Road 7 and the I-25 situation. We can only control the things we actually have going, and even those are going to be subject to change. So I just give you my word, we're going to do our best, but there's going to be some frustration. I think particularly once the Little Thompson pipeline project starts going on top of the CDOT project, and then our own project. So I'm going to do my best to let you know, and we're going to do our best to let everybody know the best way we can. So I keep putting it out there because now it's really happening. You see, like, our intersection work is beginning. Just heads up on that. The other thing I wanted to do on a brighter note is to have a couple of our department heads introduce their new staff members. We're very excited to have some really great new members of the town of Mead. So Jason and Mary, would you like to introduce your new employees?
Sure.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Thank you, board. So I wanted to introduce you to Alex Ailey. If you remember, our planner one, Kyle, resigned a few months ago and went to another town, moved back to the Midwest. And so we've hired Alex to take his place. I've asked Alex just to introduce himself to you. He's been here for 2 or 3 weeks now, 2 weeks. And he's fitting in well. He came from Brighton, where I worked for a really long time, so that's a point in his favor. He's way too tall, so that's a point against him, but I know, I'm looking at the screen and so I'm not gonna stand up here too much longer, but anyway, to let Alex.
Hi y'all. I know I've met a few of you so far, but it's nice to meet the rest of y'all. I'm Alex. I'm originally from Erie, so I know the area very well. And I'm really happy to be a part of the Mead team and be here. I graduated with a degree in geography from the University of Kansas. And my planning career has been short so far, but I've learned a lot and I'm excited to learn more. Hopefully for a long time in Mead. So.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks. And I have a human resources manager to introduce to you. As you know, over the last several years, we've used human resources consultants and some on-site staff to support that. And it was time, the town is getting bigger and the town had more needs. It was time to hire a human resources manager to be here all the time. And we hired Mr. Josh Niebel, and he's got some experience in human resources that we were really excited to see and we're excited to have here at the town. So Josh, I'll let you tell them about you.
Hi, it's great to meet all of you. This is my first opportunity to do a meeting like this and get to know all of you. So thank you for having me for just a moment. I have over 15 years of experience in human resources. I have municipal experience. I work for the city of Wheat Ridge. Recently, I helped Arapahoe County for a short contract doing some benefit stuff for them. So just again, an opportunity here. My specialties are benefits, compensation, employee relations, and recruiting. So I hope we can continue to hire the best of the best. So thank you for your time. Yeah, thank you.
Anything else, Helen?
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Questions? Go ahead.
For help.
Yep.
So with County Road 1 proceeding and being closed at 56, sorry, in my head, I had to get those right. I mean, how far off is the actual construction of County Road 7? Like, are they going to overlap at all? Or do you think, because we're still in the planning phases for County Road 7, are they going to overlap or probably not? Because that would be a nightmare going north.
No, there won't be an overlap. We're not going to be ready to pave County Road 7 in the time period that they're going to finish the project over there.
Okay.
Okay, any questions? Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you very much, Helen. All right, we'll move on to our informational items this evening. First one is our Administrative Services Department overview by our Administrative Services Director, Mary Shrek. Ma'am, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and trustees. Thanks for letting me come today. As part of having new board members, staff has been presenting about their departments. So we presented at the board retreat about public works and engineering and about the community development team. So today I'm going to present a little bit about my team and what we do. So under administrative services. So this is my organizational chart. I'm your administrative services director. I work with 2 consultants, an IT consultant and a finance consultant, Lorraine Trotter, who you know. And then this is my team. the HR manager, Josh, who you just met, our deputy town clerk, court clerk, Marisol Herman, who you've also met, she's here. We have 2 finance and HR clerks in the department, Trudy and Kaylee, and then an administrative clerk, Carla Motley at the front desk. So I've kind of broken down the different tasks that we do. Where first of all, we take over all the town clerk duties. I am appointed as your town clerk. That means I work for you, the Board of Trustees, with your meeting coordination, agenda management, any training or conferences for the board. I'm also responsible for all of the records of the town. So records management, retention and destruction of records. CORA is Open Records Act, and that's that all of our records in the town are open records. And we have a policy coming before you at your next meeting on the 27th. So I'll talk a little bit more about CORA at the next meeting. I'm also responsible for contracts and document execution and recording with the Weld County Recorder. As your elections official, I'm responsible for your elections of Board of Trustees, any citizens initiatives, any regular or special elections. As you're aware, 2 years ago, we decided to coordinate our regular elections with Weld County. So most of those are in November now and coordinated. But if there is a special election that has to happen, that would be run through my office and we would be doing the ballots and everything right here at Town Hall. Also responsible for licensing, liquor licensing, business license, food trucks, temp use trucks, peddlers. The temp use permits that we do are for just about anything that's, I'm going to say different, right? Food trucks fall under temp use permits, but so do any different uses of a property. Sidewalk sales are included in that. So if a retailer wants to have a sidewalk sale, if they want to have a car show, if they want to have a barbecue, a parking lot sale, when Guardian Angels Church did their Oktoberfest, that's a temporary use, any type of carnivals or anything like that. My department does the temporary use permits on other premises, and Lorelei and her team does the ones on Town of Mead premises. So as your town treasurer and the finance department, we're responsible for accounts payable. That's all the invoices and all the bills that we pay. Accounts receivable includes developer bill backs, any split costs that we do, like with Birth It on County Road 7, and any charges for service, including like recreation charges for service for youth sports and stuff like that. Utility billing, all of the town's investments, payroll, budgeting, grant support, financial statements and auditing, and maintaining internal controls and permissions. On site, we do most of the day-to-day work with all of this finances. We're processing all the AP, we're processing all the accounts receivable. Lorraine does kind of an oversight of it. She does our monthly reconciliations to make sure that all our books are in order. She works more with the auditor on the financial statements to make sure those are all clear. Human resources, as we just said, this was handled more by a consultant with on-site work, but now we're doing this in-house. So employee relations, mentorship of supervisors and managers, compensation and benefits, workers' compensation, staff training, and unemployment, FMLA, ADA, any of those other issues that we need to deal with. As part of the administration department, we work with CIRSA, who is our property casual claims carrier, and we do all of the claims reporting and coordination, any renewals, audits, and inspections. They come out annually and do an audit to make sure we're in compliance with their requirements. They also come out every 3 to 5 years to do inspections of our properties to make sure that what we're reporting to them and the values that we report to them match up. Access control is the door locks and stuff. That's all the access to all of the buildings. Front desk reception and cash receipting. Passports, we do limited passports here. We do them on a by appointment basis. We probably do on an average week 3 to 5. We're really trying to make sure we get the business needs of the town taken care of and the residents of the town taken care of before we do too many passports. So we just take a limited number of appointments. We're also responsible for office management, coordination of the conference rooms, office supplies, copiers, all that stuff, and support of other departments. Municipal court is the other department that we oversee. Marisol is our court clerk and coordinates the court schedule. She does support to the judge and the prosecuting attorney, communicates with defendants counsel, prepares the court docket, monitors compliance with those orders, and maintain court records. And then the last one is IT. So IT, we do work with Paul Zollner over at MJT Communications. You know Paul, but I coordinate most of the inventory and ordering of the PCs and equipment with Paul. Also responsible for email licenses management. Cybersecurity awareness, we have a program called KnowBe4, which is a partnership with CIRSA, and it provides training and testing of our systems to make sure that the employees are aware of what comes in emails and stuff. The audio visual equipment in the boardroom, courtroom, and conference rooms, we take care of that also. So as you see, it's a lot of internal work that's happening in my department. The next piece of slide that you got from the other departments was all the projects that Erica's overseeing, right? All the building and construction and stuff. And Jason had all the development projects. I don't have that, right? I support them. But what I put together on this slide is some changes over the last 5 years. So 2019, 5 years is a good target to get for you. But 2019 is also when our last treasurer left, Denise Rasmussen, or Rademacher, sorry. And when Denise left, I took over as the treasurer, and we've kind of been building this department since that point. So I wanted to show some of the changes since 2019. We've gone from 30 to 52 full-time employees in that time. A lot of that in 2019, we had 8 in the police department. Now we have about 17. So some of it is there, but we've also brought internal some other things being handled by consultants. For example, more of the engineering and development review and stuff has come in-house, and the inspections. So that's some of our staffing. Computers, we've gone from 48 computers to 90. So that goes along with our staffing increase that we've had that many computers, but just to inventory and track it, we've gone from 2 servers on site to 5, 292 business licenses to 512. Especially with COVID, we had a lot of home occupation permits come through on business licenses. So a lot of people are staying home and running businesses out of their home in Mead. I put this in here, average checks per board meeting. So you get the check register in your board packet every time. Average in 2024 was 75 checks being issued. Average in 2019 was 54. That's about a 45% increase. And what that is the accounts payable that my team is doing. So it's not just writing a check, it's actually the invoices coming in, getting them approved by the different departments, reviewing them for accuracy, setting up vendors, and then issuing those checks. So that's a big increase that has impacted us. And then the last 2 are pretty insightful, right? Our general fund budgeted expenditures in 2019 was 5.7 million and 11 million in 2024. And the overall budgeted expenditures, which you know includes the general fund and all of the impact funds, so all of those projects we're doing, was $12 million in 2019 and went up to 43 million in 2024. And it's actually 48.5 for 2025. So these are the things that impact my department, is just supporting all these other endeavors and all the great works of all the other teams here at the town of Mead. Anybody have any questions on my department and what we do?
Questions for Mary? Brad, any? No? All right, thanks, Mary.
Okay.
You might as well just stay up there because you're next on the agenda of employee handbook updates. So go ahead.
I'm next. All right. All right, so in your consent agenda today is the employee handbook to be approved. So we've made some changes to the employee handbook. A lot of them are regulatory changes, but a couple of things that we've talked to the board about, a couple of benefit enhancements. You are considered employees of the town for some of these regulations, and especially by workers' compensation and CIRSA for the coverage that we have. So this employee handbook does apply to you also, which is why you all have an acknowledgement page on, under your handbook, and I'm asking you to sign that when we're done so that we can say we went over the handbook. You are not considered employees as far as the Fair Labor Standards Act because you are elected officials. Okay, so a lot of the PTO and all that other stuff doesn't apply. But I'm going to start with the sections of the handbook and go through them just a little bit. I'm going to start with section 1, which is just general provisions. The general provisions is a lot of the legal things about the handbook. And in this section, most of it's the same. We moved a little bit of it around. We do have that we are an equal employment opportunity employer and that harassment is unlawful. These are the 2 statements about that. This applies to all employees and including the Board of Trustees. So if you have any questions about harassment or anything, please know that these do apply to you too. American with Disabilities Act and religious accommodations. In the previous handbook, those were combined together, but we separated them out into 2. Again, they're just 2 required sections. We are going to work with anybody with disabilities to the best of our ability, and we are going to accommodate any religious requests as to the best of our ability. Same with pregnancy accommodations. Sexual harassment. We all know that sexual harassment is unlawful, and we as the town don't allow that. So there's our statement on that. And anti-violence and then anti-retaliation for any violation or any reporting of any of these issues. We're not going to retaliate against anybody who does those. There is a complaint procedure if anybody wants to make a complaint against the town. Okay. Section 2 is the classifications of employment that gives full-time, part-time, temporary, volunteer, exempt, non-exempt. There were no real changes this time, except we did add the definitions of exempt and non-exempt employees. It was in the back of the handbook and we put it here because it fit better in this section. Full-time employees are anyone who worked 40 hours a week. Part-time employees is anybody that works less than 40 hours a week. We do offer some benefits to those employees over 30 hours a week. The part-time and temporary was actually addressed in 2023. The Healthy Family and Workplace Act came into effect, and we were required to provide sick leave to those temporary or part-time employees. And so we started doing that. And at that time, we looked at our part-time employees and our temporary employees to make sure we were in compliance with the laws. We did convert a lot of our recreation assistants to part-time because they didn't really fit the description of temporary. Temporary is when you have a set schedule that you're going to work, like the crossing guards, right? The crossing guards are going to work from September to May, so they're temporary employees. And our rec aides at first were working like one season. They were only working basketball or they'd only work softball. Now that we've sort of have more recreation things available, we keep them on a little bit longer. So we felt it was appropriate and within the law to make them part-time employees. So that change happened in 2023. Section 3 is compensation. This did used to say compensation and benefits. We did split it into 2 different sections, just to be clear. In this section, we do talk about any adjustments to pay. That's the market analysis that we've been doing annually with the compensation study, and the board reviews and approves any changes. Overtime pay at the discretion of the supervisors. Compensatory time is available instead of overtime. We added the timekeeping procedures for non-exempt employees. They need to report their time. It just wasn't, and they've always been reporting their time. It just wasn't listed in the handbook. We did, the pay periods are every other Friday. Performance appraisals are generally done at 1-year anniversary and continued at the anniversary date for police officers. For other employees, it's usually in December to coincide with wage adjustments. Payroll deductions, there are specific reasons why we can deduct things from your pay, including medical insurance, taxes, and any garnishments, which is the next section. And we do direct deposit for all pay. Section 4 is the benefit section. Again, we split this off of compensation. It was in there. We do have a small description of some of the benefits we offer. We offer a few more than these, but these are the long-standing ones, like we do tuition reimbursement. We didn't specifically list that one under this section because it might change. The wellness benefit is listed here. We currently do that through Nectar, and employees can participate through the wellness program. This length of service award is something that I asked the board about in our budget meetings, if we could add a length of service award. And so the length of service award would recognize employees who've been employed by the town more than 5 years. And it's it's something that other municipalities do offer. If you saw it in our handbook, or if you saw it in the AIS, it's not a huge financial impact on the town. It's maybe $4,000 or $5,000 a year, but it is, when comparing benefits, you can see it's something we offer and other towns offer. So I think it's a good thing to add. On page 8, we start with section 5, the work policies. One thing we clarified under hours of work is that is the third paragraph there, that most of our work is on site. We are government employees, and we are here to serve the customers, serve the people of Mead. And it's much better done in person, where we can respond to people, answer their calls, and be here in person. So we did want to clarify that in our handbook. Accommodations for nursing mothers is in there. That's a new one that we added in. We didn't have it in there before, but we are required to provide that accommodation by law. I skipped over the dress code, sorry, but that's didn't change any. Our dress code is pretty much neat, clean, and appropriate. On the next page, page 10, transfers and promotions. We didn't really change anything with any of this transfers and promotions. Tobacco use, we don't allow tobacco use in our vehicles or in the town hall. On-call and recall pay is for mostly our public works people who do serve on call. Talks about town closures and that the town manager, mayor, or designee may close the office in the event of natural disaster or emergency or too much snow. Modified duty, we offer that where we can. The motor vehicles policy has been in here because we do have motor vehicles, and a lot of our employees drive either our vehicles or their vehicles for work. It's an important piece to be in there. We have done motor vehicle records checks annually. What we were missing in our policy is that chart right in the middle of page 11, which kind of says what happens if you break the law, right? We said we do your motor vehicle records check, but we never said what happens, right? So this kind of outlines, and this chart was put together by CIRSA. It kind of outlines if you get too many major violations, you can be subject to disciplinary action, right? Our vehicles haven't changed. We do have town pool vehicles. We have one here at Town Hall and some at Public Works that are used just for work. We do have a card available for gas. If the board needs those to go to a conference, you can check with me to see if one of the pool vehicles is available, and that would be allowed too. Personal use of vehicles, again, we encourage employees to use the town vehicles, but if they use their own, there are some stipulations there. So town vehicle use, maintenance, traffic violations. Again, these haven't changed. These just copied over from the old policy. Accidents involving town vehicles. In each town vehicle, we do have a form from CIRSA in the vehicle, which gives our insurance information. It also suggests that you not admit liability in any case, and that's pretty strongly recommended for anybody. Take pictures, exchange contact information, call the police if appropriate. We do require anybody who's involved in an accident in a town vehicle, we do require post-accident drug testing. Expenses. Under expenses, we do reimburse any expenses reasonably incurred in the course of business, including like mileage or meals or hotels if you're going to a class or a conference. Work-related travel, it all has to be in the budget and included. The budget is approved by not only the department heads who submit it, but the Board of Trustees. So if those expenses are not in the budget, they would not be approved, but if there is approved travel in it, it could include, vehicle rental or parking or lodging or meals. On page 17, we clarified that the per diem rate, it just said we have a per diem rate for meals. We clarified that we use the GSA rate. So the US government GSA rate is what we use for per diem. We've been using that for years. It's on the form that you fill out if you're requesting expense reimbursement. It just wasn't in our policy. Section 6 is our leave policy, paid time off. Employees accrue paid time off. It is a single pool that can be used for illness or vacation or any other leave that an employee may have. Those haven't changed and the uses haven't changed. Again, what has changed is the accrual of PTO. Again, I spoke with the board about this during the budget meetings. We had it set before where if you look at the hours accrued per pay period, the 0 through 12 months is 5.23. The 1 year is 6.77. In the previous handbook, it stayed at 6.77 until 5 years. And at 5 years, it went to 8.33. All we did is split that up. So we are giving a little more PTO in those years in between, but at 5 years, you're not getting a whole bunch more PTO. But it's to try to encourage longevity in employment. It's to give everybody a little bit of a bump every year that may encourage them to stay a little bit longer. So we did that for both the general government, which is the first chart, and the police, which is the second chart. The reason we have 2 charts, one for general government and one for police, is the police don't get the holidays off like the rest of us. So they get the hours of those included in their PTO, and they can use them whenever they see fit. But they work holidays. So use of PTO. Again, this just talks about when they take it and hopefully not disrupting the business needs of the town, and the accrual limits. So this, again, hasn't changed. PTO is paid out on separation of employment. We do have a PTO buyback policy that was approved about 8 years ago now. And leave sharing program. The sick leave for temporary employees, we added this into the handbook this time. This again comes from the Healthy Family and Workplaces Act. It's right out of there that we have to provide sick time to temporary or part-time employees. We started doing that by a separate policy, but with this update, we added it right into here. So this sick leave is just for temporary employees. So the crossing guards, right? They accrue sick leave under this. And again, according to the Healthy Family and Workplaces Act, we didn't have to, with the Healthy Family and Workplaces Act, we didn't have to give any additional benefit to our regular staff because our PTO policy already exceeds this policy. The public health emergency supplemental leave, this is new in our policy. It was required to be added. Again, it has to do with kind of COVID, how they gave extra sick leave. We had to add that in case of another public health emergency. Holidays are listed here. We give 12 holidays to staff. Juneteenth was an added holiday last year, so currently there's 12. Again, these holidays are leave for employees. The office is closed on those days. We do honor voting time, bereavement time, domestic abuse leave. Again, this is another section that was required to be added to our policy. Jury and witness leave. We do support employees who are called to jury duty. And then we've got military leave without absence, administrative leave, family medical leave. As you know, when we hit 50 employees, we now participate in family medical leave. That happened about 2.5 years ago. So family medical leave is job protection if you have to be off of work due to any of the reasons that FMLA applies to: birth of the child, illness of yourself or a spouse, any of those issues. So we do have this in our handbook now. Section 7 is about employee conduct. This hasn't changed. It's just moved around. Some of these pieces in this section were in different sections of the handbook and we put them all together in here. So public contact, again, we want our employees to be ambassadors of the town and provide good customer service. If any of our employees have contact with law enforcement, they are required to report it to us because it may have an impact on their job. Conflicts of interest and the acceptance of gifts policy. Again, the acceptance of gifts, this applies to the board too. There is, the policy is because of public employees cannot accept gifts greater than $75. And it's to prevent the look of impropriety, right? Outside employment must be approved by the town manager. Nepotism, can't report to your husband, that's always been in there. Personal business, inspections and searches was in a separate section. Solicitation and political activity. Section 8 is at-will employment, starting on page 30. Again, no real changes to this policy. The town of Mead does employ all employees at will, according to the laws of the state of Colorado. This section does talk about disciplinary actions, problem resolution, and complaint processes. The next section, section 9 on page 32, talks about separations from employment. So resignations, retirements, talks about medical benefits and COBRA, the deferred compensation, which is our retirement plan, final paychecks, and what happens in the death of an employee. Section 10, employee health and safety. Again, talks about safety of the employees and use of cell phones, which is also, the use of cell phones is also mentioned under the motor vehicle policy. Workers' compensation was moved into this section. Again, the policy hasn't changed any. If an employee is injured on the job, they need to report their injury to us within 24 hours so that we can report it to our work comp insurer, who is Pinnacle. And then we do have designated providers for workers' compensation. Section D, the alcohol and drug policy, has been in here. We do pre-employment testing. We do reasonable suspicion testing. We do post-accident testing and also random testing of our employees with CDLs as required by the CDLs. So what's been removed from this policy, just so you know, if you saw the red lines on the version in your packet, we had the procedures in here about what the test results are and whatever. That doesn't really belong in our handbook. It belongs in a standalone one. And we should be working out those procedures with MBTI, or the work comp carrier who does those. So we will have in my department a separate policy with those procedures, but we did take them out of here. And they haven't changed, right? Another new policy in here is F on page 38, Public Health Emergency Whistleblower Law, PHEW as it's called. So it says that we're not going to discriminate, take adverse action, or retaliate against any employee based on them raising any concerns of workplace violations. So that's required in our handbook. Page 39, section 11 is communication systems. This is our computer and information use technology use section. Again, this was here. As you saw, all of our employees have computers. A lot of them have laptops. You all have laptops. We're expecting that town equipment is being used for town business. Same with email, and another point under email is that all of the records of the town of Mead, including email, are subject to the Open Records Act and can be requested by people who want to see the email. So be aware of that when using your email. Media relations and social media. We want to leave those two items to the experts, which would be Lorelei Nelson. So if you have any contacts from the media, we do ask that you refer those to Lorelei. And anything on social media, she will respond on our on the social media platforms that we work on. Section 12 is miscellaneous provisions, which talks about town property and the use of town property, any town equipment that employees have, they need to turn in if they separate, and take care of it. Personnel records are maintained in locked offices. And bulletin boards, driver's license, professional certifications, and then tuition reimbursement. We've had this tuition reimbursement program for as long as I've been here. We do have several employees, I think about 5 this year, participating in the tuition reimbursement program, which is really nice to see. Doing different things, right, that are applying to their jobs and helping them to be better employees for the town of Mead. So excited to see that. And then section 13, last but not least, is the definitions policy. This just lays out some definitions that may not be further defined further in the handbook. So the new handbook is on the consent agenda, and we're asking that you approve it under the consent agenda. But I wanted to present it to you again for 2 reasons. One, so that you can acknowledge that you've seen it and you're familiar with it. So if you wouldn't mind signing that form. I'm also happy to answer any questions about the employee handbook.
Trustee Trans.
Harassment.
Mhm.
You clearly cover sexual harassment. Is that the only kind of harassment that's covered?
So no, harassment, any kind of harassment was moved under section A. So section A says EEO and unlawful harassment. So we split it and split out sexual harassment to its own section. Just to point it out a little bit stronger, but harassment is clear under, on page 1, section A, EEO and unlawful harassment. And it does give a little bit of a description. Yep. And specifically, the last paragraph says unlawful harassment includes verbal or physical conduct that has the purpose or effect of substantially interfering with an individual's work performance or creating an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mary? Go
I
ahead,
do.
Trish.
Do we have cameras in any of our vehicles other than the police vehicles?
We do not.
Why not? Just out of curiosity. I've installed them in every single one of my vehicles after 2 accidents that were not our fault, that the opposite people, of course, claimed it wasn't their fault either. I was absolutely sick of that crap.
Oh.
So I installed them in every vehicle I own.
Mhm.
And I think that it's not a bad idea for the town to have them in every vehicle they own.
Are you talking about cameras that look at the employee or look at the oncoming traffic?
My cameras are AZ Dome is what they're called. And there's one at the front and one at the back. And the one at the front looks out and at you. And then the one in the back looks behind. So it gets all 3 views. And so, I mean, I one time caught an accident on my camera. It wasn't my accident, it was another accident. And the other one of the people fled the scene. And I was able to turn that over to the police to get one of the people.
Mm.
Like, I mean, it just, so far, I haven't used it personally. Well, that's not true. My son got hit from behind, but it wasn't minor. But I don't know. I think that it might be a good investment for the town to look at putting cameras, because it happens far too often that I got sick of it. I own a fleet of vehicles, trust me, and I put them in every single one of my cars. They're
they-
not that expensive.
Yeah,
They're like 100, and I think they were like 100. I got them on sale at $130 a pop, and I installed them all myself. They're not hard, and they're super easy. You just clear the cameras when they fill up. It'll just say, "Hey, your camera's full." You just go down and say reformat, but then it's there and easy to just pop the SD card out, go put it into a reader, and it'll show you 3-minute increments of the entire of each direction that it gets. And like I said, I installed them in every one of my personal vehicles myself, so they're not hard to do and they're not very expensive.
So, Trustee Harris, I think what we would likely do there is check with the town's insurer. CIRSA may have like a best practices that they're starting to implement with respect to that type of technology, but we'll check in with the insurer.
Okay, all right. Other thing that I know we've kind of talked about this before, but I didn't see it in there is bereavement for pets. And I know people think I'm crazy, but literally people live with their pets 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, years on end. And a loss of a pet can be more detrimental and hard on a person than say the loss of an aging parent who, you know, has been in a, I mean, obviously there's differences for everybody, but the loss of a pet can be really hard for some people. And I would like that to be included in there in some capacity. I mean, especially if somebody's got to take a sick pet to the vet and have it put to sleep and they have to make that decision for a pet. I mean, that can be incredibly hard to deal with for a few days after. So
Well, I would just say we haven't addressed it in the employee manual. We do have a fairly liberal PTO policy, though. I mean, I think our PTO employees have quite a bit of it, and it would certainly be an allowed, you know, a bereavement, but we didn't include it as a, you know, one of the, your uncle, your dad, your mom, that kind of thing.
all right. Well, something to consider, I guess.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, Mary, very much. All right. Next informational item for this evening is confirmation of our board retreat special meeting dates that we talked about during our retreat. And I will turn this over to our town attorney, Marcus McCaskill. Sir?
Thank you, Mayor. So we just wanted to take a brief moment. As you all know, we had the retreat right following the New Year's holiday. The retreat was held on Saturday, January 4th. At the end of the retreat, we talked about remaining retreat dates for calendar year 2025. And we talked about moving that from Saturdays to the first Mondays of certain months. So we're looking at Monday, April 7th as the next date, and then Monday, July 7th, and Monday, October 6th would be the next kind of retreat upcoming dates. But so we wanted to take a moment to confirm those dates with all of you at this point, and also at the very end of the retreat, I think Trustee Schrantz brought up using the next retreat date, which would be the April 7th date, as really kind of a board long-term goal setting session. So the department heads may not be there, but I think Helen would be there. I would be there if there are specific legal questions that come up during that long-term goal setting project. And we thought also we wanted to take a moment and make sure that there's consensus from the board on this plan, but we also thought it might be helpful to have a third-party facilitator there as well. We've done that in past years and it's worked really well. So just wanted to take a moment and confirm that as the plan for the April 7th meeting, special meeting.
Can I add a little bit to that? We collectively as a group discussed being able to sit down, just the trustees, and find out what kinds of things are important for the trustees, what passions we have, what we think we want to pursue for the next 3 to 5 years, which kind of makes it like a long-term planning thing. So I'd like to see if we can't use that first date for that, to be able to sit down collectively and go through that and see what comes up and what sticks to the wall. Okay, so I think all we need to know is if everybody's in concurrence with that, or is that something we'd all like to do?
Yes, I really like this idea. The only thing that concerns me is the July 7th. I know from my family, but that around July 4th, that week is a big travel week. And so there's a lot of people out of town. And so I kind of like doing things in person and rather than having to Zoom something.
Mhm.
But if we could adjust that date just a little bit, not cancel it or anything, but at least adjust it a little bit.
Okay, so maybe we can have ask Mary or her department to send out a poll and find an alternate date for the second meeting, but the April 7th, I think that works pretty well, right? And I think I'm seeing some nodding heads, so consensus maybe to continue with engagement of a facilitator for that meeting, and we'll set it up as more of that long range planning type meeting with a facilitator. So that's it. Just wanted to confirm that with all of you. Yeah.
I don't know that we need a facilitator. If it's just the board going to get a chance to put out there, throw out there on the wall, as you said, what they have a passion for, have interest. I don't think we need to spend money to have a facilitator for that.
Well, I think that's valid, and ultimately it's up to you all to give us direction. I think that we have utilized the facilitator in past years, and I think what a facilitator can do is really help elicit comment from all the trustees that are participating, and really help put everything up on a whiteboard and help organize. I mean, I think there's definitely some merit to having a facilitator there.
I was gonna say,
So,
we don't seem to have a problem with having people comment, so I think we're a pretty boisterous
Yeah.
group, so.
We've used a facilitator before on many of the retreats in their priors, and it's worked out very well. So,
I'm not.
Thank
I'm
you for
okay
that.
without one. I, I don't think, I agree. I don't think we really need, I think we can all voice our opinions, be civil to each other. We don't need someone managing us.
So we want to put that to a vote?
Do we have to?
Or not. I agree. I think, as we talked earlier about this stuff, this first phase is really just pretty open discussion. It's not necessarily pointed, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? It's, to Brad's point, I think we're civil about this. We're gonna sit in a room and say, hey, let's throw stuff up. We may spend half an hour, we may spend all day. It depends on where the discussions go and, what people believe in and what they want to do. I don't know what the costs are related to having a facilitator there. Is it a costly thing? Because I agree with Trustee Adams. I don't know that we need to spend the money for that. Not the first one. I think there's going to be follow-on of this first meeting. There'll be follow-on meetings after that. And then maybe when you have a particular subject that you want to, then a facilitator is good at drawing out comments about that particular subject, but have somebody say, what do you think, Jeremiah? What do you think, Dave? What do you think, Herman? I have facilitated, I have been a facilitator.
I don't think it's that much. I mean, I think it's fairly nominal. It's a per hour type charge. So,
Yeah. I've been a facilitator. I've facilitated a lot of meetings, so I'm fairly comfortable. Probably most of the people at this desk can.
well, we could try it to the first time, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work for the next ones. You know what I mean? So give it a chance, and we've done it before, and seeing if it doesn't work for that one, then we just stop it.
No, that's a good idea.
It'll be our first one, with doing this kind of agenda. So
Yes. Agreed.
if it's a nominal per hour or per half hour, and we start at 5:30 at night. So I imagine we don't want to be there all night long.
Oh, no.
So
I
maybe
don't think,
we
I don't really
be
don't
a-
think it will be.
yeah, well,
But
I don't know.
Not the
I don't
first
know.
session.
I mean, I just preferred to try it the first time, and if we don't like it, then we don't do it in July or whenever we decided to do it again. Couldn't hurt.
To try without them and eat them on the second one, but I like the free flow of just the exchanges and not being structured and managed. And
I think we'll be able to do that, even with the facilitator. I think we'll have that free flow. This group is pretty open, so I don't think a facilitator is going to shut us down from any kind of discussion we want. So we're okay with that. I think I got the general consensus that the board's all in favor of doing that April 7th. Thanks.
great. Okay, we'll finalize that for the 7th then of April.
Thanks, Marcus. All right, well, let's move on to our proclamation tonight. It's Acts of Connection Month, January 2025. We have, hopefully I pronounce your name right, but I'm just going to say Ms. Sanchez is here tonight with North Front Range Behavioral Health to tell us a little bit about social connection. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Michaela Sanchez, and I am the Marketing and Community Outreach Director for North Range Behavioral Health. We are what would be known as the Community Mental Health Center for all of Weld County. So we are the safety net provider, essential comprehensive provider for mental health services. So I come to you with my hat on for that, but I'm actually serving with a different hat on. I am also a co-chair of, it's called the Healthy Mind and Spirit Work Group for Thriving Weld. Has anybody heard of Thriving Weld? So it's a group of nonprofits throughout all of Weld County that come together to try to figure out how we can play puzzle and not chess when it comes to figuring out how we can help people thrive in Weld County. And we have different focus areas. There's a focus area on healthy aging, one on housing stability, and then the one that I co-chair is Healthy Mind and Spirit. We've been looking for a while at the impact of loneliness and social isolation on well-being, and realizing that that may be something that we could hope to create an impact on in Weld County. It's not something that at the time, about 3 years ago when we started this project, was being talked about a lot. So we started putting our heads together and trying to figure out how we can support people in driving connection, because we all know that connection is lagging in our communities and society, right? We know that we're missing something. About a year into the project, the Surgeon General, the U.S. Surgeon General, put out a health advisory on the impacts of loneliness and social isolation on our health. And when you read the proclamation, there'll be some statistics in there from the Surgeon General about how it really does impact our health in ways that are stronger than smoking, heart disease, obesity. And one thing that we find is that people who are impacted by loneliness and social isolation, many of us don't realize that we are actually experiencing that. Another thing that happens is those that do realize that they're experiencing that may feel like they're the only one. And so our goal with Acts of Connection, a project, starts with a campaign throughout Weld County, is just to really start the conversation around it and get people to understand that you're not alone, that it is something that is common, and that it does impact your health. And it is something that we can protect ourselves from by taking steps to drive connection a little bit closer. So, you know, I can go on forever about this. I've been working on it for so long, and it really has become a passion of mine. But what we do know is that it's the quality of your relationships, and it's the intentionality behind connection. Things that might be taken for granted. Once you start thinking by way of connection as a lens, you start really appreciating those opportunities. I was at Sam's Club, and there was a woman who needed help getting the rotisserie chicken. You know how we always wait in line there for those rotisserie chickens. And I could have helped her and gone on my way, and I helped her. And I was like, oh, this is an opportunity for connection. Is there anything else I can help you with? She's like, yeah, I really needed to find those mashed potatoes, and I don't know where they are. I'm like, I know we have mashed potatoes here, but I don't know where they are. And I grabbed another woman, and we were walking around looking for mashed potatoes for like 5 minutes. And it was a small little thing. And the woman who needed help had some interaction that maybe wouldn't have happened that day. And I walked out feeling better than when I walked in. It's small things. We take it for granted. We all know it to be true. But when you're a little bit more intentional about it, that's what's going to change things. So that's my soapbox.
It's perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. I'm going to ask Mayor Pro Tem Harris to read the proclamation
Okay.
tonight, and then I'll step down to be on the platform with you.
Wonderful.
All right. Proclamation Acts of Connection Month, January 2025. Whereas human beings are biologically wired for connection, with social connection functioning as a fundamental human need, which is as essential to our survival as food, water, and shelter. And whereas the U.S. Surgeon General report states that current rates of loneliness and isolation have profound threats to our health, being more widespread than many other major health issues, including smoking, diabetes, and obesity. And whereas approximately half of U.S. adults report experiencing loneliness, yet less than 20% who often or always feel lonely recognize it as a major problem. And whereas the highest rates of risk impact young people, aging adults, underrepresented racial groups, people with lower incomes, and those with chronic diseases and disabilities. And whereas understanding the factors that contribute to loneliness and social isolation and the profound threats they present to our health and well-being, and taking inventory of the cultural, community, and societal dynamics that drive connection and disconnection is needed now more than ever. And whereas creating healed communities that are healthier and happier requires action, which starts by reflecting on how we can shape, build, and strengthen our institutions, cultures, and interactions to support the development of healthy relationships. Whereas Acts of Connection, a public health initiative of Thriving Weld, aims to create awareness of the health risks of loneliness and isolation, educate the public on the importance of social connection, create urgency of action to change our trajectory, and connect people to local resources and information that bolster healthy social connections. And whereas Acts of Connection Month is observed this January to raise awareness about the importance of social connection and the factors that contribute to loneliness and social isolation. Now, therefore, Colleen Whitlow, Mayor of the Town of Mead, Weld County, Colorado, does hereby proclaim January 2025 as Acts of Connection Month and call upon government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to initiate acts of connection by embedding social connection in policies and programs and creating spaces and events that promote connection. Additionally, we call upon citizens to foster a culture of connection that wraps around our neighbors, friends, and loved ones by seeking out opportunities to serve others, participating in community groups, nurturing relationships, and above all, showing empathy and compassion for one another, given under her hand and seal of the Town of Mead, Colorado on this 13th day of January 2025.
Thank you, Tricia. Is there a motion to approve the signing of this proclamation?
I move to sign this proclamation.
I second.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Trustee Crane,
Yes.
trustee Shranz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris.
Yes.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
trustee Hagan,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Motion carries. I'll be right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your time. Next is public comment. The board welcomes public comment at this time for any item on the agenda. We will also take comments for items not on the agenda during the second public comment, number 10. The board will listen to your comments and take them into consideration. If you desire conversation, please email the board or the town manager or attend the monthly coffee with the mayor. If you wish to speak during this public comment period, please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Please start by stating your full name and address for the record. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the Board of Trustees, and if you are representing a group, you'll have 5 minutes. Is there anyone here in the room in Town Hall that would like to speak to the Board of Trustees on any item on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda for tonight. The consent agenda contains items which are considered routine and are approved with one motion and vote. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as is.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Crane,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
trustee Hagan,
Yes.
trustee Strands,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. Motion carries. Thank you, staff, for putting the consent agenda together for us. We appreciate it very much. Next is our second public comment of the evening. We have no further general business, so we will move on to number 10. We will follow the same guidelines previously stated, and would anyone in the room would like to speak to the Board of Trustees on anything? Sure. Please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Carl Ford, 2020 Red Cloud Road, Longmont, Colorado. As many of you know, I was a code enforcement officer in the town of Mead. There are some problems in this town that I want to bring to your attention. I swear under penalty of perjury, the testimony I'm about to give is the truth. The first two people I'll be speaking about are going to be Colleen Whitlow and Helen Mickelbrick. Colleen and Helen tried to illegally influence the recent election by ordering me to remove some political signs while leaving others up. I was told to remove all political signs and to pay special attention to the marijuana legalization signs for the town. Helen mentioned this at the September 30th meeting here that I was at. I was ordered not to touch the signs for the police tax increase, as it was a pet project of Mayor Whitlow. I saw dozens of these signs illegally placed in town. By using their authority over me as the two highest ranking town officials, they, Helen and Colleen, used their positions to attempt to force me to violate the town codes, state laws, federal laws, the Constitution, and my oath. They are the legal definition of official misconduct. Now I move on to Mary Strutt. She needs to be removed from office as well. She played favorites with election signs, telling me to hold on to some and throw others away. She also knowingly violated her position by overcharging people for the Colorado Open Records request. I have evidence in this folder where she charged the family $100.74 for 6 pages of email. My report, which took me less than 10 minutes to retrieve, and the information from the police department. The cost for this probably should have been zero because it was less than likely an hour's worth of work. Mary too needs to be fired for official misconduct. The job before this board right now is to clean these people out immediately. Helen can be fired for any reason or no reason at all. The mayor and the town clerk must be given a written warning or written letter 15 days to prepare for a hearing to this board. I strongly suggest this board immediately fires Helen and suspends Mary and Colleen until the time of their hearings. If the people of Mead see me and hear me, please write these representatives for anything else that you've seen these people do. I have I have an affidavit I'm going to sign and give to this board along with this paperwork about Mary. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Mr. Ford, thank you very much for being here with us tonight, and congratulations on your new job. We appreciate the time tonight and look forward to seeing you in different areas around our beautiful town. Thank you, sir.
I'm going to provide this so you guys have a record of this.
Ford, Mr. Ford, thank you
There's
very
only
much.
5 seconds left.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Anyone else here that would like to speak to the board? Okay. Please state by stating your name and record for the record. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Don Smith, 325 Main Street. So I'll follow Carl after I get a couple things off. I was told at Coffee with the Mayor and I forget who else, that in order to get things on the agenda to speak about, all we got to do is present them here, or any of you trustees can bring something up and then we can start having a discussion over these things. So one of the first things is the dog park. I'd like to have a discussion over that. I'd like to get on the agenda. I don't know how you guys get about discussing it amongst you, but I'd like to move forward on that. The north lot, north of Ziggy's, before we just sell it, because I've been told we don't know what we're going to do with it, I'd still like it to be considered for a substation for the police. Again, on the agenda for discussion before it just gets sold out from under us for a parking lot. Cleanup days, we had a discussion at the mayor's meeting, and I was told the EPA is the reason we can't do that anymore because we've gotten too big. I'd like to talk to whoever's in charge of that and understand exactly why we can't when there's bigger cities that do it all the time. I personally, along with all my neighbors, don't like driving all the way to Erie. And I'd also, if that's an issue, I'd like to get a petition run and see how many people do want it here and how many people want it somewhere else, other than just the board telling us that we can't have it anymore because nobody uses it like they used to. Same thing with the dog park, same thing with the lot north of East. If this requires petitions, then I need to talk to Mary, I guess, and figure out how we can go about that. But I'll run around and get people to sign these things and get as many signatures as we need. And then I'm going to follow up Carl's thoughts here. I didn't know he's coming tonight. But I stood in front of this board and I talked about the salaries here and how people were paid as of 2023. I have no idea what 2024 is or 2025 is, but we saw 50% increases. We saw 26% increases year over year. And I was told by the mayor and by Mary, who Carl pointed out just now, there was a 2%, 3%, 2% every year increase, and then 3% according to merit. Well, we saw 26, 30%, 50%, and Colleen and Mary is particularly told me they didn't know where those numbers came from. Well, they're government information. You can find them on a government site. So Mary lied to me point blank, telling me it was only 2%, 3%. She didn't know where that was coming from. I think these things need to be investigated. I was running for trustee and she told me absolute lies to my face. So the board ought to really look into what these things were about and why she said these things. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith, for your time tonight. Thank you very much. Anyone else that would like to speak during the public comment tonight? All right, well, thank you. We will move on to elected official reports. Town trustees, anything to report on this during this section? Okay, I'll move on. We have the Dr. Cog standard meetings, CML policy on Friday. I have the Mayor's Leadership Academy coming up and the Mayor's Summit. So it's a pretty busy couple weeks ahead. So next we will go into executive session for pursuant to CRS 24-6-402 4E to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, develop strategy for negotiations, and to instruct negotiators related to acquisition of certain property interests required for the 3rd and Welker Avenue intersection improvement project consistent with the town resolution number 34-R-2023 dated May 8th, 2023. District Court case number is 2024 CV 30061-USASIA, LLC. Is there a motion to go into executive session? God,
I move that we go into executive session.
thank you. Is there a second?
Let's have the specific statutory reference there.
Okay.
I prefer if you just restate that in its entirety. Thank you.
I move that we move into executive session pursuant to CRS 26-6-4024E to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, develop strategies for negotiations, and to instruct negotiators related to the acquisition of certain property, interest required for the 3rd and Welker Avenue intersection improvements project, consistent with the town resolution number 34-R-2023, dated May 8, 2023. District Court case number 2024 CV 30061-USASIA, LLC.
Is there a second?
Second.
Somebody seconded.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mary.
Yes.
Trustee Hagan,
Yes.
trustee Crane,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Motion carries going into executive session. The time now is 7:14. We will turn off the recording and adjourn to executive session. We will restart the recording for the executive session. For those in the audience, that is all particularly, we have 2 items after that. It's action items and adjournment after that. You may proceed to the front and outside our front door until we are adjourned from executive session and may return. Thank you very much.